In this video, I'm going to be opening a Death Star 2 starter deck box, as well as a single Death Star 2 booster pack at the end. I just got one of these in, and I have a sealed one. Had a sealed one already, so I'll be opening up this one to sell the starter decks at my store. We'll put that booster pack off to the side for now. There are 12 decks in here, 6 light side, 6 dark side, and they are pre-constructed, so they do have the same cards in each. The same 60 cards in the light side, same 60 cards in the dark side. Whoa. Gonna get back on the screen here. Gave me a bit more resistance than I expected. Get some scissors. So I got my first one of these probably right when they came out. And that's what it looks like on the inside. So, got 4 dark over here, 4 light in the middle, and 2 and 2 on each side. We'll move this off to the side here and take a look at each deck. So here we have the dark side one. Oh, it's fraying a little bit on the back there. Or, you know what? Maybe that's a pull tab. I don't think that's fraying. But anyways, we have the dark side deck here. 60 cards. Got pictures of the Emperor and Vader on there, but they are not actually possible to get in these decks. And the light side one has Luke, Lando, Mon Mothma. I think the only thing you get in them is a Nebulan B frigate. But there's actually a lot of pretty good cards in here. When they first came out, my friend told me that you're guaranteed to get a Han and a Chewie in the light side starter deck, and I did not believe him, but it turns out that was true, plus there was one other rare in there. So I'm not actually going to open one, since we already know what's in there, but I do have a previously opened one that we can go through, and a lot of pretty good unique characters. This guy right here, I like adding 2 to each of his destinies. Weapon destinies. Pretty fun to shoot with. Dracelian Commandos, a lot of good pilots, so Hobby. So Power 2 Ability 2 guys. This was back when getting a Power 2 Ability 2 guy when I first got these was quite amazing. And I'm not sure what order these came in, and I'm not sure if they were shuffled, but this one I sorted just by type. And we start out with 3 effects, because it introduced this starting interrupt that lets you deploy 3 effects right away at the start of the game. All sorts of utility interrupts, good stuff with weapons, Grimtashes, because you're not supposed to have 13 or more cards in your hand. I suppose you can, but you just gotta hope your opponent doesn't have a Grimtash. And a good amount of systems and locations in here, so a lot of decent cards. And these 2 decks I think were pretty well suited to play against each other. Some cool starships too. This was back when I first got one. My best starship was a medium transport, so actually getting a combat ship was pretty cool. Hadn't seen a turbo laser yet, but that also came out in this set, not in the starter set. But unique Y-wings, a couple unique X-wings. This is Hobby's X-wing, a pretty cool picture. Non-unique X-wings, a lot of good stuff in space. There was a lot of systems came out in these decks, but there was so much space that it probably still ended up having a few battles. Some weapons, and these weapons are good to have in this deck because of the effect that we saw previously that lets you forfeit your weapons to your used pile for forfeit of 3, so you get to keep recycling weapons. And then at the very end I put the exclusive rares. So it came with a General Solo, Chewbacca of Kashyyyk, and Admiral Akbar. And the General Solo and Chewbacca were both printed in Endor, and a lot of these cards are reprints from a previous set. But you'll notice the copyright date is 2000. So 2000 means it was in the starter deck. 1999 means it would have been in the Endor set. There's a slight color difference, but for the most part you have to look at the copyright to tell the difference. We also have a dark side one here, previously opened. Not as heroic as the other ones in terms of the, there's not Luke and Chewie's, but not Han and Chewie's, but they do have some decent pilots, some Saber Squadron pilots. That's the TIE Interceptor Squadron. This guy can finally pilot Blizzard Scout 1, which came out in Hoth. So that was a set, almost 3 years before. Endor came out. Stormtroopers that are actually somewhat good and don't have a destiny of 1. Mirrors to the 3 light side effects. Battle Order was a cool one. Made it so you had to go in space and on land too. And also let you initiate battles for free. And this was a cool effect. The light side had the same thing, squadron assignments. If you have a ship or a pilot, you reveal that, and then you can go in your reserve deck and you can pull out the matching ship or pilot. So instead of trying to wait all game to match up Luke and his X-Wing and maybe deploy Biggs on Luke's X-Wing and then 3 turns later deploy Luke on Biggs X-Wing or whatever the opposite would have been, then use the Falcon ship docking capability to switch them, you can just go get them right away. And I'm almost hesitant to admit that I think I've actually done things like that in terms of shuffling all these characters around. But yeah, the starting group that lets you play 3 effects. This one lets you play an extra sight if you want to just keep the effects in your deck. So these seem like they'd actually be pretty fun to play against each other, these 2 decks. And of course, a very important card. If you lose a battle, you can play this, and you don't have to take any battle damage. So it helps you in a blowout. And that reminds me a little bit of a light side card. I'm going to set this aside and pull the light side card back out. Not sure if I can get it going, but this card refires repeatedly, and I noticed that other guy had Corporal Midge adds 2 to your weapon destiny draw. So I've been trying to put something together with using this and a card called Mercenary Arm that lets you fire for free to just dive into a battle with him and shoot at everything, and then play the light side version of Gick, the Hoojix, and then just run away after having shot everything. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but it seems like a pretty fun way to have a Rebel Commando go all John Rambo on everybody. But a lot of Endor sites, Victory-class Star Destroyers, so not the big Imperial-class Star Destroyers, but a nice mid-sized capital ship to support all of these ties. And this introduced TIE interceptors for the first time, so not only the unique ones, but also the non-unique ones. And in this deck, you might actually play TIE defenders. Deploying as a rack isn't too bad. And there's TIE interceptors, which are a great improvement over the premier TIE fighters, as they were in the Star Wars universe as well. A couple of ATSTs, pretty much mirrors the light side weapons. Of course, these ones are a bit different, the TIE cannons, but the exclusive rares, or at least the reprints, so we had a unique ATST that you automatically got, a unique AT-AT, and you also got Admiral P. It was a pretty good card, lets you pull a commander or an admiral's order, and he's a pretty good pilot himself. So that's what came in the starter decks. Also in each starter deck came a rule book, and it's got the basic rules of the game. But what I thought was cool at the end was, other than a card list of everything you could find, it had a promotion introducing the next sets. And in there it mentioned Shadows of the Empire and Skywalkers. So I'm not exactly sure what happened to these sets, but it seems like most of Shadows of the Empire was subsumed into Reflections 2, so that's where you got Shizor and Dash Rendar and Lebo and the Outrider. And then Skywalkers was more or less made into Tatooine, but I do wonder if Shadows of the Empire originally was going to be the combo card set or not. But yeah, 2 sets that they sort of got made, but they definitely got changed, and they didn't stay by that name. So the last thing we'll do is open up a Death Star pack. Since we just took a look at starter decks, those were to get you to buy boosters, and here is a Death Star 2 booster. Lots of good stuff can come out of a Death Star 2 booster. Anytime I get a unique Star Destroyer or a unique Mon Calamari, I'm happy. But as I'm sure a lot of you watching this might know, there are ultra rares in Death Star 2. And we'll see if we got one in here. Alright, insertion planning, a pretty good card with Luke Jedi Knight. Not saying he's in here, but a pretty good card with him, because if he's at an exterior battleground site, exterior planet site, you can subtract 3 from Battle Destiny. So a good card to combo with Luke, and it's also Destiny 6. We saw this guy in the starter deck already. The rare, I believe, in these packs is towards the middle. That's a red card if this is the rare. Oh, that's not the rare. So one of the cards in the starter deck. I'm used to in Death Star 2 packs the rare being closer towards the front. Who knows? Got an Imperial. Okay, so our rare is Simalu. It could be worse, I suppose, but not one of the better rares of the set. But pretty interesting character. One of those guys with about 14 seconds of screen time, mostly in the background, but decent stats and supporting the Emperor. If you ever get him in a battle, I suppose he's pretty good. What else is in here? Okay, so this is Saber 2's pilot. Pretty good pilot himself. A very cool B-Wing for fun for weapon decks. His pilot also adds to weapon destinies, so you have a pretty good shot at hitting the Executor with him piloting it. And Hobby's X-Wing. So a couple good starships at the end, and a mediocre rare. But Death Star 2 is a very cool set. Well printed, lots of cool cards, vibrant colors. And the starter decks are a good way to get a few of the good cards from that era. Han, ATSTs, Akbar. Anyways, next video I'll be opening one of each of the first sets. Dagobah, Premier, A New Hope, this is out of order, but Cloud City, Jabba's Palace, and Hoth. And there'll be a little guessing game involved with that. So if you are interested in that guessing game, you can contact me through the contact info on my page. You can just click on that in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the next video.